Hello, 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 and greetings, adventurers of Vera. Welcome to Tavern Talk at the Golden Feather Tavern. We are Virtek and Chibi, keepers of this fine establishment. The Golden Feather Tavern is open to all travelers to come share your thoughts on the inner workings of Vera over a nice tankard of ale, mead, hot chocolate, or any other delicious beverage of choice. So raise your glass, pull up a chair as we delve into tonight's discussions. So today is the 13th of March 2024, and we are on episode 010. That's right, 10. Episode 10. We're such a baby show today. Quest sharing, player base, and Steven Leaks. And Chibi, what do we have on tap today?
Today we'll be talking about, as you just mentioned, quest sharing and going into what kinds of quests you guys think we should be sharing within Ashes, as well as who exactly is the target audience for Ashes of Creation. And the last one is also self-explanatory. Steven Leaks, aka things Steven has said in the official Ashes of Creation Discord. So buckle up. If any of these topics sound interesting to you, feel free to give us a like, follow us here on Twitch, subscribe to our YouTube, and hit that notification bell to see when we go live next. As a reminder, we open our Discord for these topics for our friends of the tavern, people we've known around here for a while, some of our long-standing patrons. For those of you that are new to the tavern, we welcome your conversation in chat as always. And with that, let's get into talking about quest sharing. So last week, we posted on Twitter. I don't know why this isn't a link, so I'm just going to copy paste it. We were asking about your thoughts on sharing quests. We saw the commission dev stream. Should we be able to share commission? Should they autocomplete if we are sharing them? Should we have to be partied to be able to share? These are just a few of the questions that we asked. But before we get to what other people said, what do you think, Virtek? Oh, I do not hear you at all. I wonder what just happened there.
No worries. You can hear me now.
Yes.
No, I was saying sorry. I was getting those images downloading that we were looking at. What was the direct question specifically?
Sharing is caring. Yeah. Give me a second to pull that up again. I was asking, because we just saw the commission dev stream, we wanted to know how shareable should quests be? Should we be able to share commission? Should they autocomplete? Should we have to be partied for it?
Oh man. That is, yeah, there's a lot of feedback I have on that one, or a lot of answer on that.
Okay.
Lots of quests should be shareable, like most of them, if not all of them, depending on what type it is. Should be able to be shared to parties or raids, even for that matter. It's always bothered me when you couldn't share. In some games, you couldn't share quests when you're in a raid.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's kind of an important thing to do. Sorry, there were so many questions in that one bit. I know there was, should we be able to share them?
Should they autocomplete?
Should they autocomplete?
Would you like
should quests just in general autocomplete?
If you're sharing a quest, should it autocomplete for everyone? Yes.
As in, if you do something, I guess it depends on what the.
Either way, if one of us were to complete a quest, should it autocomplete it for everybody else, or should it autocomplete as a system event once the quest is done?
That should depend on which quest specifically, what the object is. Like if it's kill something, then yeah, it should autocomplete, I would think. If it's bring back 5 of these things, then maybe you should need everybody to do 5 of those things. But yeah, I think that's a very contextual situation. It should
Yeah. In my opinion, a lot of this is very contextual. So it's just in general, like just your thoughts on stuff.
Yeah, that's
Just
my
kind of
thoughts
getting the
then.
ball rolling. And just to reiterate again, the final question was, should you be in a part? Do you have to be in a party?
Yeah, I would think so.
Sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to fix something now. All right. For me, I think that it's kind of one of those things that's like a little bit more complex than just needing to be in a party. I feel like as long as the party is expanded to also include raid, I think it'd be cool if that's a thing. I don't know. Perhaps it also includes something like I'm just gonna move you over here because I keep looking the complete wrong direction. But it's one of those things where I think also it would be cool to be able to share a quest with another person that's not necessarily in your raid or party, and perhaps maybe it could have a party invite baked in with it. I don't know. Like in order to accept it, it would automatically invite you to the party. And maybe it could be one of those that once completed, you could choose to drop from the party.
I could see that. Like party up just for the length of that quest and call it a day.
Yeah, because like I always get stuck in parties with people that I don't really want to be in a party with afterwards. It was just for that quest, but I'm too polite to just leave. Maybe we could just call it like a temporary party or a short-term party or something like that. But additionally, I think that there should be I don't know, I kind of would like it to autocomplete if we're all together, right? Instead of me being like, wait, I didn't complete that quest. Let me go back and complete it. Like I feel like if we are trying to quest together, because I don't know how many times you and I have tried questing together, and one of us moved on without the other one, either purposefully or accidentally, and we lost track of like, all right, well, which one did you turn in? Which one didn't you turn in? If we're going to be partied together, I think it should auto turn in together. And I don't mean auto select my options for me. It's just once one of us is turning in the quest, have the other person have like a choice of whatever quest rewards there's going to be for that. Because then that way we're staying on the same page. We know exactly that we're on the same part of the quest together. Especially for those storyline quests. Now, an additional question would be, should you be able to party up for a quest if one of you is on a different part of said quest line from another person? Or should it kind of highlight to you maybe step 1 out of 5, so that way you can kind of be able to better differentiate where you are in a quest chain versus where I am in a quest chain?
I mean, I think it should definitely allow you to party up if you're at separate parts of the quest chain and just let you go back and complete the earlier stuff, or for that matter, complete the late stuff and circle back around, depending on, time limits and what friends got to do, etc., etc. And welcome in, Demon Soul Games.
What do you mean? Yeah, a few of you have just realized I dyed my hair. It's okay.
It's the day for realizing. I think you usually have your hair pulled back, is why.
I've had it down a couple of times, but yeah, possibly. But thank you. You were just talking about being able to go do future parts of the quest. Are you meaning just help one person do future parts of the quest? Because obviously you shouldn't be able to do a future part of a quest you haven't gotten to.
Yeah, like depending on what it is. I mean, if it's out in the open world, because there's going to be very few instance things, right? And they're not looking to do any kind of phasing and such like that. So, I mean, it's got to exist out there for you to access at any given point. So, if say somebody's coming through and you're running with a party of like say 6 or 7 people that are starting alts and going through stuff just to have fun, and somebody's trying to run through solo and do this quest thing, but they're on the boss step, you could run ahead, help them with the boss, and then circle back around and continue to do your own.
Yeah, and then eventually have to do it again for yourself. That makes sense.
Yeah, or for that matter, even if somebody invites you to a party to help them, and you're like, "Wow, what's this quest even? I didn't even know this was here."
Hey, Hag Up, welcome in.
Then they share it with you, and then you can circle back around and do the whole quest line to kill that boss.
Yeah, possibly. Sorry, I'm just making notes on what I need to deactivate going forward when somebody follows or something like that. Next week, we're going to be talking about special dev touches in the game. But before we get to that, we had one person on Twitter respond, and it was Ragnarok saying it'd be awesome if they were shared. We were used to Adventure Guild concept. This commission really reminded me of that. Quests are for the town, people, etc. that some adventurers take in order to get paid and help the ecosystem. Solo or party, you can help in your own way, is essentially what Ragnarok said.
Cool.
I do agree with that, Wizzy, that sharing quests makes groups more fun and easier.
And more importantly, it makes it less fun and enjoyable if you keep having to break away from the group because you can't share or whatever.
And we also only had one response on Discord for it, and it was from Chaffee. Chaffee says, "Love this question. My opinion, I've always seen MMOs as multiplayer experience. Who would have thought?" You should still be able to solo content, but the better rewards should always be considered group content. I think commission should scale on group size. If you have a party of 5 and go to the commission board, the system should be smart enough to hand me a 5-player quest. I have more to say on this topic with sharing, but maybe it would be best to wait for the stream. So Chaffee, if you're here, would love to hear more of your thoughts on that. But otherwise, if you're not and you're seeing this on YouTube later, would love to see it in the comments. And those of you watching, of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. And the next topic is going to be kind of more on like what devs have done to kind of make games feel special to you. So kind of excited for that. Grobe says, wouldn't that mean there's no point in doing commissions outside of a raid? I don't think so. I think that's overly pessimistic way of looking at it. I think it's more so rewarding you for playing with other people and not really saying it's not worth doing by yourself. I mean, you can totally do it by yourself. Given what we've seen in the stream, though, I would say definitely go multiple levels below you, like multiple, maybe at least half your level below you. If you're intending to go solo, maybe lower. Virtek, what are your thoughts on that?
On that one, honestly, it's the age-old solution that every game has, which is you don't earn experience in a raid. Or you can't do quests in a raid, or you can't do insert whatever content. Like completing something either isn't allowed or doesn't reward experience if you're in a raid.
But also 5 people isn't a raid. It's just a little bit bigger of a party, or I guess smaller party than what Intrepid is intending to be a party. We are drinking Moscato today.
Yeah, tonight's a Moscato night.
Would love some more mead. Definitely. But no, I think that saying that you shouldn't be able to do that unless you're in a raid or like a really large party, I feel like that is kind of like an overexaggeration of the system idea. It's just more like you should be rewarded for playing with other people, and not always doing everything solo. Like that's kind of the point of an MMORPG. And I think a lot of people are used to solo playing MMORPGs instead of playing with other people.
Yeah, but yeah, the point that Grobe was
You
bringing
are
up, though.
Grove. You are.
Yeah, but the point Grobe was bringing up is very valid, to be honest. Because I mean, if you have it scaling up so that it makes, you know, you get the most benefit out of running with a raid, all you're gonna see is raids running around doing, you know, average solo quests even.
Possibly, but that's why it's called scaling. Like to me, it's equivalent, right? If I'm baking a batch of cupcakes for 6 people, and you tell me there's going to be 36 people there, I then have to scale that batch of cupcakes to fit 36 people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much different than my one batch that I was going to do by myself. It's just increasing the amount and the size of what I'm creating equally.
Okay, so basically, to create a system that's going to reward you for running around with 8 people instead of 1, or 5 people instead of 1, or 4 people instead of 1, it's going to scale in a way that's going to reward you even more for having 25, 30, or 40 people instead of 1.
Sure, but I'm saying that mobs in turn would probably be more difficult than just going by myself because you're scaling things. If it's scaled to match for 5 people, that means the difficulty of that commission has now scaled to match for 5 people. You wouldn't send 10 people through a 5-person D&D game unless you're expecting them to just knock everything over before it even has a chance of attacking.
So you're talking about specific event type stuff, not just your normal quest type thing.
Yeah, we're still talking about commissions, and that's what Chaffee was talking about. Is if he's gonna group up with 5 people, he'd like it to be like the equivalent of 5 people. I can pull that up again and just real quick reiterate. If I have a party of 5 and go to the commission board, the system should be smart enough to hand me a 5-player quest.
Gotcha. I mean, that'd be nice, but then we'd have to make sure that they have like 5-player quests and 6-player quests and 7-player quests and 8-player, etc., etc.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. I think commissions are going to be worth the XP. I didn't get a chance to look since our last our last tavern talk. I didn't get a chance to look at what the XP actually looked like when he turned those in or completed them. But I would imagine that they would give you a decent amount to convince you to also do the commissions. I think it's an additional type of quest that you can complete to level up, while also pushing you to specifically do those to level up your node instead of whatever other thing. Sorry, I have to put myself in the middle again, I guess. I can never tell which way I'm supposed to be in the middle until after we're live. Because I'm in the middle for my screen, but then I have to be like on one side for the cams. But it's one of those things where nodes, I think, are only getting XP from the commission list, whereas we get XP from a variety of things. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot yet to see on how experience comes in and where experience comes from, but yeah, I still think that they would need to kind of close out experience or in some way limit it when you're in a raid.
Viral. Yeah, nodes node XP are supposed to come from all activities in the node.
Yeah.
So then maybe this is like special XP. I don't know, because if it's supposed to come from everything, then what's the point of having commission specifically, unless it's a specific way of doing it? I don't know. Maybe it's an extra amount of XP for the node.
That's kind of why I was saying I wasn't really excited about the stream before the stream went and happened, because it's just a quest that you get from a board instead of an NPC out and about everywhere. is all it really felt like. And you can
Mm.
choose which rarity of quest you want to pick up from the commission board if there's multiple different types and you only really want to grab one.
Yeah, which we'll get into that in a little bit because there's going to be some more when we get to the Steven League segment on commissions that I want to talk about. For now, my next question to you is, do you think PK is the way to keep a game alive?
Oh my gosh. I think that the only thing PKing keeps alive is trolling and being terrible and being a murder hobo. It's the only thing PKing keeps alive, and it keeps people interested in the game who are all about that murder / being murdered life. But yeah, it keeps hate fires alive too, for sure.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I think it's fine in games to have open world PvP, and player killing happens. It's fine. It's whatever. I just don't think it necessarily keeps anything alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that, honestly. And that's what OP here is talking about, although I kind of feel like he's trolling everybody. This is from Own Kaleidoscope, and they're talking about how PK is perfectly normal, and not only does it keep the game alive, it's just a role in the game, and some people like to play the villain. And somebody responded with the player corruption planned system, and they essentially said that they thought it was ridiculous to have a penalty. And aside from that, they agree with everything else. And I see Viral here has actually responded to this person. But yeah, I think the purpose of PK is malicious and not enjoyable. I think having something like about 5 days ago, Viral, having something like the corruption system kind of puts that check into balance. And I don't know. I think if you like PKing and you want to be able to do that without any form of repercussion whatsoever, go back and play WoW. That's just my hot take, I guess. Go back and play WoW. That's where you can go to be a PKer without any sort of anything.
Possible penalty, yeah.
No penalties. You could PK all day to your heart's content. Go for it. But from my experience, having systems like that actually kills the game. It makes people not want to come play. It makes people want to get off of that type of server or out of those areas.
There.
Yeah, as long as you're not on the open sea. Right. Thank you, Drunken Ninja. I was going to get to that. I think there's a time and place, and I understand the open sea concept of it. We see that in things like Sea of Thieves and other games. But
yeah, the person was basically just trying to say that the corruption system doesn't belong in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you should be able to run around and murder hobo, and there should never be a penalty for that because it keeps the game alive. But it really doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah. But that kind of brings us to the question, who exactly is the intended audience for Ashes of Creation? What are your thoughts on answering that?
Yeah, because that kind of came up in conversation, because if you really think about it, with the arguments that we've heard with the whole caravan thing and PvP balance and risk versus reward, the quote-unquote target audience that are announcing themselves as PVXers, and you have to like PVX in order to play Ashes, and they consider just getting your head taken off in the middle of the woods being part of the game. the target audience might actually not like corruption existing in the game.
Right.
Because you're supposed to have a threat of being, slain by another player at any given time doing anything. In theory, there should be no town guards even for like a full tilt PVX game, right? And if that's the golden cohort, the target audience, the corruption system probably doesn't belong in the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, welcome in, Vandar. Ashes and Air says PVXers are the intended audience, target audience for it. I don't know. I say PVX, but I kind of think it leans more towards PvP, and we've explained our opinions on it before. I think there is PvE in this world, but as a PvE-er, there is not exactly a bunch of systems that I feel are for me specifically. And what I mean by that is I like the harder core PvE content. I like the more difficult PvE content. And there's not going to be those instanced harder PvE content pieces, but there will be instanced PvP content. Just kind of as that reminder. But am I open to things? Yes, I am open to things. Am I 100% happy with everything that Intrepid is planning on doing? No, not necessarily. And Drunken Ninja, 20%, not necessarily. That is specifically only for storylines, and thus I believe will be non-repeatable because it's for the story. It is not the same as a World of Warcraft dungeon. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't know if you're going to be able to repeat those instant dungeons.
Yeah, that's what it said in the wiki. They're not going to be non-repeatable. Steven said that before, that they're going to be basically quests, like they're quest lines for the story only. They're not going to be super difficult, just so everyone can get through the story of the game, and you can do them once. But Ashes of Nera, PVX does not necessarily equal PvP, but PVX requires PvP to be present at any given time. Like PvP means that you're just like pure PvP is just what arena play, right? And that's it. Because you start talking open world, and that means that there's a random squirrel out there that you could kill, or a wolf that might attack you, and suddenly it's PVX. But then pure PvE means you cannot get attacked by players. But then as soon as a player can attack you, then PVX. But is there really that PVX factor in there if there's a penalty holding back the players? Like the pure hardcore PVXers are those that would probably not want the corruption system to exist, right?
Yeah. Basil says, I hope that one day they add more PvE instance dungeons if people ask for them. Viral says, I do. I'm a huge PVX. That corruption system just limits pointless stuff. Yeah, I agree on that one. PVX player. Yeah, I gotcha. I understood. But I think I would like to be, a PVX player. I need to get better at PvP for that first. But I don't know. Like, I would like to see more PvE stuff. You want more open world PvP? How do you get more open world PvP?
He doesn't want player versus player to be fair, so more open world. I mean, I guess that would be just removing the corruption system at that point. Yeah. And removing all instanced PvP.
Yeah. Because I'm like, how do you get more open world PvP? There is open world PvP, so how do you get more? I was like, yeah. Build a boat. Yeah, there you go. That's how you get more. That corruption's okay. I don't want griefing. Yeah, I don't want griefing either. Also agree. I would like more PvE that's been shown But I also don't want to instance. I just don't think that you can truly have more difficult PvE while also having PvP present if you're trying to keep in mind the fact that PvEers are supposed to fight both the mob and the player.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure we're really gonna find too many like straight PvE players that join the game for longer than like 6 months to a year, and that's if they really love the game. And so they're just trying to make it work, and after about a year they're going to be like, this game isn't for me. Like, this game just isn't for me. I completed the story and I did some crafting and I couldn't buy any housing, so I lived out of a tavern for the entire time, and this game isn't for me.
Yeah.
So I think actual like PvE players are they're gonna be short-lived. They'll pop in because they really like how it looks or how it plays here or there, but they're gonna abandon ship. PvP players, there's so much PvP in the game that they'll be happy. PvX players, I mean, obviously, the game. I mean, that's literally the golden cohort.
And that's why I'm saying I think it's leaning more towards PvP players and people who play both PvP and PvE stuff, and not so much PvE players, because there's not much that I can rerun, but you guys can always fight each other constantly. You know, and you can fight each other in an instance where you don't have to worry about outside influence unless you go and PvP each other out in the open world, which a lot of you are probably going to do, like people outside of Wargrimmar, you know. But that's also why I'm saying I'm open to trying Ashes for a little bit before I truly make my point. These are just my concerns. I'm not downing Ashes for it. I'm just saying I'm concerned as a pro PvE player that there's more spaces for PvP than PvE.
Yeah.
Like dedicated spaces.
So here's the thing, and I see a couple good comments coming through from people.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
So let me see here. Corruption. So Ashes of Nair ended up saying, I'd be okay with removing arenas, but would still like a solid system for players to practice without corruption. That's what PvE players are asking to have with PvE content, like raids and dungeons. And I totally see your point from your thought from that point of view too. Totally love a place to be able to practice and do things without being interrupted by other people. But until then, I'm gonna keep voting and putting out my what is it, my poll, my not poll, where you try and get people to sign up for something to say petition? We should totally do it this way. Petition, that's the word. I'm gonna keep putting out my petition for open world arenas. Like, if you want some arena PvP, that's fine, but it's got to be in the open world. You ready for it to be interrupted? Better bring some bodyguards, Care Bear. Yeah, then there was Drunk Ninja. You said there's a layer people leave out of these conversations, the layer of politics that will influence the PvX. It can't be ignored, and that's true. But that goes in every direction, Drunk Ninja. There's the politics of slay everybody from a certain node, slay everybody from a certain guild. And then there's also don't slay anybody because we're the nice node. And then that node gets destroyed because they're the nice node. But yeah, there's so many political things that are going to influence it, but it can influence it in every direction. You never know.
Yeah. Real quick, while you continue reading, Hagop, I'm going to ask if you could please elaborate on your perspective, because I never got to play Eve, and I'd love to hear what you mean by having both PvE and PvP. So I'd love to hear that. Please go ahead and continue reading while they respond.
Gotcha. And then Group says, life skillers that don't care about raids will have plenty of space still. And there were a couple other comments that other people made down the line, similar to, they'll always have a place, but would a guild take materials from their guild players who love PvP and are out there taking over dungeons because it's going to be open world dungeon? So they take it over every time that a boss is found to have respawned, kill the boss, get the materials, and they're also a life skiller. Would they take it out of their hands to take it to some other life skiller instead? or would they give it to the person that contributed to the PvP and the PvE takedown? Also continuing that thought process, yes, probably. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's like saying if you made $20, would you give $10 to somebody outside of your household to take care of something, or would you buy $10 for the house while somebody inside the household takes care of that same thing? You keep the money in the house, right? Why give it away? You give away money. You don't give away money. Like, you just don't. But then taking a step further is like, would you, as a guild, purposely aim to have, say, 20 PvE only players? Just PvE only, but they're really good at PvE. And then you need to bring 40 PvP players to take care of them. Or just bring the 40 PvP players and 20 of them do the raid. That you're splitting all the loot and everything with 20 less people that are only slowing down the other 40.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Nazuk says, my PvE gameplay never being interrupted, exactly the gameplay that is too cozy to make the game interesting. If there's no risk to gameplay, you're playing an RPG theme park, not an MMO. And I said that I agree partially to that. I agree partially in terms of the never being interrupted. It's not that I never want it to be interrupted. I love the idea. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if this came through previously. I love the idea of open world dungeons, open world raids. I'm just saying I would like to see it more like 40-60 instead of 20-80, with the additional 20% being replayable, where I could choose a harder core thing and I can push and test my skills against it and know that I am excelling. And it's for the exact reason that Basil brought up, which is, how does a guild schedule a raid if you never know if the boss will be there or if another guild will be there? And that's in terms of the idea of, you know, a lot of us, I haven't played Eve, I haven't played Lineage 2. So keep in mind where we are coming from as MMO players, right? I come from World of Warcraft. I come from Final Fantasy. I've played a few other games that have instance dungeons, right? So I like the reliability and my plan of being like, I want to go and raid on Thursday. That's my planned day. That's the day I have off. That's when I'd like to go raid. And Thursday comes, and let's say in Ashes currently, we plan to have a raid. A group of us log on, and we start adventuring, trying to find a raid, and we can't find one. And we've kind of essentially wasted our night trying to find a raid, right? That's just an example. Whereas for other games we've played, we've logged on, we know exactly where we're going. We can definitely play it. We can definitely get some loot. And that night is not as wasted in terms of time spent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the thought that I'm trying to get out there. I have also been the person that went with Virtek scouting for that one world boss because I want his drop.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gruntag, thank you so much for the resub. Cheers.
Hey, Gruntag. Welcome on in. Happy to see you here.
And real quick, I want to kind of go back because I noticed Grim Liberty, welcome in. Also, it seemed like somebody else agreed. Take your B3 agreed with Nazuk. Let's see. That was to you. Vander says, keep in mind that a group of 8 with different skills will have an advantage, and there are no perfect characters. I agree with that. Viral says, would you be okay if the instant dungeons are mechanically harder but provide less valuable loot? Honestly, I don't know about both. If it's harder but it provides less valuable loot, that seems counterproductive. Equal value, maybe fine. Less valuable, I don't know. Grim Liberty says,
I responded to that same thing in text. So just I guess vocally, yeah, I would be okay, because I like pushing challenge a little bit more than Chibi does. I would be okay if it was harder, just as long as I could actually get in there and do it without being like stomped by PvP people rolling around the corner, because I'm not great at PvP, I'm not gonna lie. I can't hold my ground for a certain amount of time, and then I'm absolutely terrible after that.
Yeah.
And I just just not great. But if I could go into a place, even if honestly, and even if the dungeon itself or raid itself was still open world, but as soon as you get into the boss room, it locks down the doors, it locks down the space, you're the only ones in there, and we get a quick minute to regroup and then take on the boss, I'd be perfectly okay with that. Like, it doesn't need to be a full instance dungeon. Just as soon as we get in that room, I need to get in there. Would
Real
it
quick,
suck?
pause.
Would still suck. Okay, I'm paused.
Ninja, thank you for the follow, and Abrihat, thank you so very much for the resub 20 months. Hi, welcome in, and we have a hype train started. Sorry, you can continue on your spiel now.
yeah. Forget where I was exactly, but
he was full on lecture.
I just want to be able to go into the game at some point and just do something PvE with the friends at some point. You know, it would just be great to still have like a raid night or a dungeon night and be able to know that we can do something instead of like, hey, let's have a raid night. Oh, look, there are no raids. All the raid bosses are down, all the dungeon bosses are down, all the world bosses are down. I guess what we're doing is we are running around the entire map looking for caravans because there's nothing else to do. And I don't want to turn another raid night into a crafting night because I will tear my eyes out. So we either do a caravan hunt and we destroy any caravans we find, or I'm going to go watch anime in a corner.
Right, I'm going to continue going through the rest of these to try and get caught back up on all of the comments that have happened. Grim says, but you will never have the same raid. Each level with change the next. Their abilities used will change what the defenses are, etc. And I agree with that, and that's fine. But the problem comes in if you're PvPing in the middle of that, and that's more what I'm getting at. Is like, not only are we trying to get more difficult or different raids, but we're also always getting PvP'd potentially. Drunk Ninja says open world, low level scout characters. It's how we tracked dragons in World of Warcraft vanilla, and that's a good point. Virtek gave his piece. Moving on to Grobe saying, to Viral saying, TNL did this. World bosses are easier, but are contribution based, so it's hard to compete for drops. Guilds have instance raids for every world boss at higher difficulty, but guaranteed drops. Grim continues to say, to me, this desire is the same as expecting nodes to be the same. And I kind of get where you're coming from. I'm just saying, from somebody who's had the perspective of being used to having something that was ours. At the moment, the only thing that is ours are the really easy, in my opinion, I haven't tried it yet, really easy instant stuff just for storylines that everybody is expected to go through. Viral says that's pretty lenient and respectable in regards to, I think, what you said, Virtek. Gruntek says, sure thing. Good to see you two in the flesh. Actually, fun fact, after our 200th episode, 201 is going to be back in the flesh for our regular podcast. So but get ready for that. Not this next week, but in April. Grim continues to say, telling someone a year into the game where to fight what because you did it a year ago. Yeah, I know that's not going to be a thing, Grim. That was not really my point. My point is kind of what Virtek was saying. Even something to have as a instanced area would just be nice for PvE, because you get instance PvP, but you don't get instance PvE unless it's a world quest or a story quest. But it's riskier if you can be PK'd. And I mean, that's fair, but that's not like PvE difficulty, right? That's PvX difficulty. And maybe that's just something I have to get used to. I'm open to being completely changed my perspective. Like, I am. When his Ryan shield breaks, he just cry emote. Oh, when his Ryan shield breaks, he just cries. I heard that 1 minute ad. I don't get to hear the response. Oh no, viral. One stray player of a class you don't have in your group throwing 30 seconds of abilities will change your combat experience. I think you were saying something showed you that. I don't know what AX might. I don't know what that was supposed to be. Sorry. Geez, there's so many. Sorry guys, I'm still getting caught up. Subs are immune to ads. They are. On my crafting night, I want all ingredients on time so I can do my thing. So leave my caravan alone. But I think caravan is like a PvP primary thing. Virtek questions. When do you think you should be able to attack a node? Coming from Hidden Dagger. That's you specifically to answer.
I'm not sure what you mean by that exactly. Like, when do you think you should be able to attack a node? Like, what time of day, or like how soon in their progress, or like how much should you need to save up and prepare in order to be able to attack, or what do you mean by when do you think you should be able to?
Grim says, I do hear your opinion, understand your desires. They are reasonable in most games. This is going to be a niche game, right? And that's why we're talking about like what is the target audience for Ashes. I don't know if it's me necessarily. I was over sentences in a row, but chat's going too fast. Games should certainly have both types of PvEing that you're talking about. We have open world PvP and also instance PvP, castle sieges, right? So there should definitely be both. And that's what I'm saying. I just would like instance to not be just fall over, right? Just poke and you know, I don't want that.
Yeah, and actually, Nezuk, there's the instanced PvP for castle sieges and node sieges isn't necessarily confirmed. There's been talk about if they should or not, and there's been talk on if they should or should not include small instances in the castle sieging and the node sieging, but there's only going to be a limited number of people that can participate, and everyone else isn't allowed on the battlefield. That's from the best of my memory, that's how it's worded when it was put out by Steven, but I don't know what that means exactly. I think it means you're literally not going to be allowed on the battlefield, but it's going to be viewable from the open world.
Sorry, say that last part again. You're not sure what it means exactly?
I'm not sure exactly what that means. Like, it hasn't been put out in a full description, like bullet points A to B to C and on.
What was the statement though?
I'm sorry?
What was the statement that you weren't sure what exactly it meant? That's what I was asking. Like, what statement did you?
When Steven said that there's only a certain number of people allowed to register as attacker and defender, and nobody else is allowed on the battlefield.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't think that means. Yeah, I don't think that means it's instanced, but I think it's going to be a nobody else is allowed in that area.
Yeah.
So it's technically instanced, because I would totally be okay with that even in PvE. It would still kind of stink because all the bosses would be on timers and you still can't plan a raid night, but at least you could plan a raid night as a PvE group and go do it if it's up. But
interesting. Between PvP and sub V, most aren't wanting to play or don't have the time to invest. And that's a good point. Like, there's so many people that are used to free to play games right now that Ashes might be kind of a like, oh, I can't really afford that, especially if you look at like current economy things, right? But then there's also the PvP aspect, which honestly, yeah, for me, does that bother me a little bit, but I'm open to trying it, right? I'm not writing off Ashes completely just because it's open world PvP. I'm open to trying it mainly because of the corruption system, right? But also my friends don't have more than 2 hours a day. And that is a reality of a lot of us, especially older, a lot of us. Oh man.
Yeah. As much as we love PvE, we're definitely not aiming for PvE servers.
Yeah.
That would, while it's possible, it still wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same game at all.
Ah, my heart! I just got told to get better.
Get good.
Yeah, I get that, Grim. Oh, jeez. Sorry. This is our first
Yeah.
time set up. I can hear myself through him. My bad.
1 sec, I'll be right back. We can fix that.
I got it. But yeah,
I'll
I was gonna say, at least it's cheaper than going to the movies all the time. All right, well, he's adamant about getting it, so I'll just elaborate. At least it's cheaper than going to the movies all the time. You know, I think that that's gonna be more expensive to go to a movie, and this girl right here paid for World of Warcraft throughout her entire college career because $15 got me an entire month of game time, which was way more than going anywhere and getting a drink, way more than going and watching a movie, way more bang for my buck.
Yeah. I mean, by the time you spend gas to go get a snack at the grocery store, you've spent $15.
Yeah.
So doing that once, I mean, it's going to be less
I
than.
did that with one trip to the bar. The $60 per household. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yep.
So,
precisely.
3 months of Ashes is cheaper than one burger from Uber Eats. Play Ashes a creation. You can play it for 3 months for the cost of one burger. That's gonna be our our campaign for Ashes, right? Yes, the most important is to find a group of friends to play with. In fact, if you have children and you are worried about them being around 18 plus environments, our guest yesterday is intending on having a children-friendly guild.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Grim Liberty, if you're perhaps missing a tank and a healer, let me just tell you, if you were to join Nexus, we are overflowing with tanks and healers. We need everybody else. So, if you were to jump in Nexus, see, I read Viral Gaming's Netflix thing. But yeah, if you jump in Nexus and join us, you'll have tanks and healers abound.
Yeah, we were talking about the children taking over the cornfields, and then you get Stephen's dream of Children of the Corn. Yeah, to be fair, 90% of Nexus are support players. I'm honestly like this close to just making for Nexus, specifically just for Nexus, a ranger. We'll see. Because if we have that many healers or whatever, as much as I'd love to play a healer, I just can't fight over a healing spot with the rest of the guild. It's not going to be worth my time. I'll just make a ranger. We'll be done with it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and I'm trying to source back, and I see a conversation. I haven't found like the root comment, but they're talking about 4 a.m. raids on a node or sieges on a node.
Yeah, talking about that being the best time to go do a node siege because nobody's online.
I mean, if you're the attacker, yeah, absolutely, it's an amazing time.
Yeah.
Like Nero said, though, just because everyone else has certain times that they can be on, like prime times, to be honest, that's when it's going to be the most fun, I would think, in general. The best time, if you're an attacker that legitimately wants to take out the node, yeah, at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. But prime time is when it would be the most fun, because then you're more guaranteed to get a full attacker and full defender team.
Yeah. Basil says, I feel like more healers won't hurt that when PvP can break out at any point. Yes and no. If I'm a part of the primary PvE group that's trying to go into a raid and we're fighting over the limited slots for PvE when I'm not so good at PvP, that's what I mean. Like, right, I'm probably, unless I'm a top performing healer, and this is probably realistic for a lot of guilds, not just Nexus. If I'm not a top performing healer, I'm probably not going to be the first pick or first few picks for healing when there's an 8 group person and they need DPS.
Yeah. And,
that's just more what I mean.
Sorry to circle back real quick, just because I read through Hidden Dagger Inn's full post there on that. So
yes,
if the horde starts at one of the 4 divine gates and you don't want to be part of that node and you go nearby, when do you think you should be able to contest that node for the right to keep going? So let's say I think it's pretty all right because it's set to what level or tier 3. Level 3 is when you can start to war between nodes and siege other nodes. Or it can first be sieged at level 3. It's either 3 or 4, I forget. I think that's pretty all right because there was a statement that Steven made about level 0 to 1 would be like weeks or days, and then it was weeks, and then it was even more weeks, and then it was months. So it's going to end up being at least a month and a half of constant gaming in that area by multiple people in order for it to get to level 3. So I think that's pretty decent. It's a good amount of time that people are going to dedicate to leveling in the area before it can become increased and then be sieged down.
Yeah. Raka, sorry, real quick. Basil says, how will we know people's performance without meters? Raka says experience, and then I responded with what you would typically respond with, which is there's a way. It's long and arduous, but there's a way.
Yes.
Like, go heal that tank for the next 5 to 10 minutes while he attacks this level whatever creature. Keep him alive. Like, that's a good way of gauging how good somebody is at managing their mana and things like that. Also record your screen so that we can review it, Grub says, my concern is that in game node sieges will be incredibly lopsided in numbers, so unless starving out resources is a direct tactic for sieging, it'll be really hard to make impacts. Not advocating for anyone to PvP at 4 a.m., but if sieges are hard enough to do, people will stop doing them. Arcade saw this with castle sieges, and those were way smaller in scale, in reference to Ashes and Air. Vile wants to know what we think the balance of PvE is to PvP for guilds per server. I think it's going to be PvP heavy. Straight up, I think it's going to be PvP heavy. The game is PvP heavy. The guilds are going to be PvP heavy.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that like to do PvE and PvP, and those people are probably better at PvP than I am. So they're probably going to stack harder on PvP because, let's be honest, we've already had somebody say either on our show or a show that we were on, it's harder to determine what a player is going to do than what a mob is going to do. So if you can PvP, you could probably PvE very easily.
Yeah, what if it's not balanced that way? If there's more PvE guilds, then that means that there are there's more prey than predator, is what it is, because all it takes is the PvP focused guilds to go in and really want to do the PvE content, and they're going to taunt and hassle and bother the PvE guild until somebody fights back, and then that person that fights back is going to get immediately downtrodden. PvP doesn't equal PK. I know that. No matter how many times somebody says that, I know that. But what it does mean is that if you are all about PvP and another group is quote unquote a Care Bear and they're not, but they're PvE people, so therefore they're always living in the dungeons and raids, and that's where you get the best gear components, right?
Yeah.
So you need to fight for those components, therefore you are going to taunt them and bother them until they fight back, and then you kill them.
Right.
And you don't get corruption, and you whittle their team down until the boss takes them out, and then it's your turn.
Also, I'm not saying PvP is equal to PK. I'm not exactly who you're referring to with that, because you didn't really at anybody.
Yeah.
I'm just saying having a higher level of PvPers instead of PvEers will ensure that you are not getting PK'd in a way. Yeah, Wolfie McGee says an event monster isn't taken care of quickly, do you believe that nodes should be a major target higher tiers more than lower ones? I'm not sure. Probably. Like, nodes should be a major target, talking about higher tiers being more of a target than lower ones. I don't know. That's very dependent on, the AI that they build. If you go by strict AI, a smart, intelligent mob will go after the lower tier. A dumb mob who is powerful will probably go after whatever node is closest to them. Kind of like D&D, right? an unintelligent mob will probably hit whoever's first. An intelligent mob will probably go after the healer first.
Yeah, in
Or
theory.
whoever's
I mean, they might even, depending on how intelligent it is, they may look at who's being the most active, because there could be a healer that does one big old whopping heal on a big tank and gets a lot of heals out, but they're taking like one action a minute. So they might end up being lower in the priority because they're really not active in that group. So what do you mean by that, Grim Liberty, when you say why go for mats and components when there's a ready source for gear? What ready source for gear? Red cannon will is actual gear.
I don't think raids drop gear.
Oh, reds.
Raids drop reds. Oh,
corrupted
reds.
people.
Sorry. I read that as raids, not reds. I thought you meant raids. Yeah, they have a chance to drop gear, but also that's anticipating that there's going to be a bunch of red people running around.
And yeah, I think Rube has it right. Tactically speaking, to be optimally tuned, yeah, PvE and PvP are two totally different creatures.
I really like the conversation, by the way, guys. Thank you so much.
Response times are different. Long game is different. It's somewhat there's a certain part where like they're going to cross, and like right there they can be the same. Mm-hmm. But too much more time to kill, or too little variance in skills or something like that. And there's going to be a crossover where, yeah, the exact same group could do the exact same job in the exact same amount of time. But for the most part, yeah, it's going to be a big difference between them.
Yeah. Current iteration of reds is that they can't interact with anything when red. Well, yeah, like in node stuff, they can't interact with their mailbox, etc. Speaking of reds dropping gear, what bounty hunters, by the way, hi Sir Huntington, to be able to go ham on caravan raiders for a period of time after attacking a caravan, even in town.
I mean, it would add more risk to that attacker side of things.
I guess so.
You know, I've always advocated for it. I think it would actually potentially add a lot more interesting things for both the attackers and bounty hunters if they literally had a traveling caravan, so to say, of NPCs that was kind of like a red player's haven. It was the one place they could go to, and they could sell stuff and they could buy stuff, and they could, you know, get potions and stuff like that to prepare themselves for staying out for a really, really long time, right? So think about that. It would show up as a dot on a map for those people who are corrupted, so they'd be able to find it a little bit easier, right? But all the corrupted people show up as dots on the bounty hunter's map. So you take a risk by trying to go there to sell things and buy supplies, etc. But it's the only place you can go to sell stuff and buy supplies while you're corrupted. So it's gonna pull corrupted people like a little honey trap. But then bounty hunters could potentially find it and then just follow it along for a while.
Yeah. And honestly, I like what Grim said. At the end of the day, you know, thankfully combat is pretty even-handed. It won't be one-shot kills from max level to a noob. 2 noobs were able to fend off and eventually kill a level 20. And that was well equipped in Alpha 1. And they said they slowed it and made it more even for Alpha 2. And I think that's, you know, something that we're going to be able to look through and test, you know, waiting to see how that goes. I just kind of quickly, I love the conversation that's going on in chat. We'll still be monitoring it, but I did want to go over some Steven leaks.
Okay, yeah, let me go ahead, and I wasn't able to fully get those loaded in just yet here.
That's fine. There are some things that Steven has said since the 1st of March. One of them is something that we talked about yesterday, which is him talking about, where is it? March 1st. Character creator will likely enter PI testing within the next 1 to 2 months, and that was March 1st. at 11:56 a.m. Eastern time. So in case you missed that, that's what he said. So very excited for that. Virtek and I are PI. We're obviously not going to be able to talk to you about our experiences unless they say we're allowed to. They did say that we were allowed to tell you guys we were a part of the video for the Caravan Siege experience from January, but that was all we were really allowed to talk about. Sawman says, after seeing the Dragon's Dogma 2 character creator, do you think Ash is on the same level or needs to catch up? I think it's definitely already same level from what we saw. If you guys have not seen the character creator, we have last April, they showed the character creator, and they showed that you could put a scar anywhere that you wanted to put a scar. You put it on the body and then drag it around the body, put it anywhere you want. There was a lot of sliders. There were a lot of options, and they had more options that they were looking at still implementing, because I believe they want there to be a lot of sliders. Asmon pre-made available, Keck, right? Grobe redeemed add an Ashes of Creation question. Based on what we've seen of other classes, what specific roles does chat think that fighters will be intended to fill in raids? Melee looks like it might have some pretty harsh competition from ranged DPS players so far. And that wasn't really the point of that redeem, but I will take it. I think that's still a good question. We need to refine these, I think, a little bit. I hope we can share character looks, just binders full of characters. Yeah, it's okay, Grobe. That was actually intended to be you guys adding to our collection of questions to ask the guests that we have on Tuesdays. But I do like the idea of being able to put in asking a question for us to answer immediately. I like that idea too. So that just gave me a different redeem idea. I don't know about you, if you like that. Okay.
Right. So I have one of the images brought in. Which one are you going to go with first? When you read it, I'll put it up on the screen.
I'm going to start with the probably the second one or the original second one that starts with 3/1/2024 all the way at the bottom.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna read the related comment that goes with it. And then Steven's answer is what is screenshotted. So Gilgamesh Runeheart says pay-to-win features don't matter if they are obtainable through gameplay. Only matters when it's store-only items. And Steven says, I would disagree. It undermines an achievement when you remove the need to achieve it. Nice. Hello. Look at you. And I agree with that. I think that you should have to. I don't like anything being pay to win. And that's the whole purpose of pay to win, right? So if you're not paying to win something, you're still paying for something, even if it's not winning. But it does undermine the intent for achieving the item. Yeah, I was agreeing, Grove, that Nice is pretty cute too. What small talk you had with Thogly yesterday? Oh, for Nice, yeah. Sorry. I was like, I don't think I had any small talk with Thogly yesterday. Which is why I think Monster Coins should not be in the story. And I would agree with that. I actually liked it being on top of the video. I don't know why, but the next one is wait, hold on. Pay to win. Grim Liberty subscribed for 6 months at tier 1. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Grim.
Cheers.
Much appreciated. Cheers
Cheers
indeed.
in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like a big medal that hangs from your neck says pay to win. It must be an overpriced cosmetic or emote in the game. I like that. It's a dwarf joke, Chibi. Oh, wow, rude. Wow, rude. I don't like this. I'm moving on. But yes, Moscato.
The small talk.
Do
something about Moscato.
For the deeps. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you. Thogly. Oh man, Thogly's here.
Okay.
Then Steven asked if people liked the live stream for the last day of February. Lex says pay to wizard.
Pay to wizard. I like it. I like it.
Oh my gosh, Thogly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Thogly.
I'm almost out of Moscato right now.
10 months. Oh, what? Means I gotta catch up.
Yeah, subscribe for 10 months. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Almost a year. I wonder what Echo is. I think that pay to win is a difficult metric because I think pay to catch up mechanics like in-game player shop aren't pay to win since players have already collected the items anyway. Problem comes from centralized shop. I agree with that, but I think that Steven doesn't like paying the idea of being able to pay for anything except for cosmetics. It's a tavern. Yeah, that's why we let the dwarf in, you know? Open seating. I'm hoping they have a cabinet skin that hinges it to a shoe rack full of sandals.
Speaking of the small talk with Thogly on Voices of Vera, as I said over there, we're an old school type of inn. As long as someone's tall enough to see over the counter, they must be old enough to drink, right? So.
And I'm 4'10", so we have to have the counter fit for my height. So that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, as long as dwarves are at least 4'10".
Yeah, I'm just saying. Good to see you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun recording it, says Steven. There is still a lot of work to do and many polish related things that need to be done leading up to Alpha 2, such as cape physics, collision, weighting. Lighting will be huge change in performances, of course. We're doing all the things.
All the things.
Talent says, saw some of the lighting artists you hired. One of them is the lead lighting artist for Rockstar, so hopefully the lighting ends up great. He says, yes, our lighting team is fire. Hello, Pockets. Pretty much all of it, but that's okay. We're going through Steven leaks at the moment. Dwarves rejoice. Chibi lowered the ride height requirement. Exactly. I did. And then Scapegoat says, Steven, you didn't notice Yuna get killed by the lightning? What do you make of that? Personally, I think it's funny and awesome at the same time. And Steven says, we forgot to flag the boss to be immune to his own lightning. But c'est la vie in development. And they're at 188 employees currently. So that's where they were before the pandemic. I know I'm going
hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I hit the wrong button. I faded us to black instead of fading in the image.
I'm jumping to the Vassalship just to get you ready.
Stream over, guys. We're done here. We're done.
Yeah. We're just mic drop, right? My Nikuan is pretty short, barely 4'9", barefoot. Lucky you got some platform shoes off of a Vec thief. Thieves in platform shoes. No wonder everyone's hating on Predator. Oh, jeez. Then Steven says about Vassalship. Vassalship is the risk of losing the progression race. Once that risk becomes realized, subjugation isn't all bad. It provides a framework of cooperation and benefits for all involved, some more than others. And the pathway to revolution lies in other node networks. Drop Citizen and go Braveheart mode. And then Lex essentially says the problem with the progression race ends with subjugation. There's no easy way to fight your way out of it.
All right, there we go. I am changing how I'm capturing that to make life a little easier, and I can just scroll instead of resizing it every single time.
Awesome. Yeah, I tried to give you a heads up. Sorry. When Lex mentioned the progression race ending with subjugation and not having an easy way to fight, Steven says not all things are worth fighting for are easy, which we've heard that a lot of in sentiments. Don't know how about the design of the subjugation. Is that what you're talking about, Viral? Which will happen right away with 4 starting divine nodes. I hate it. I don't want to cooperate with the horde of newbies. Steve, I'm trying to figure out like what you're referring to exactly. My thought, all abilities in the game, there'll be at least 2 that will break it. That's been the pattern. I feel like rebellion should be a thing. Rebel against the motherland. Rebel. What you just read about being a vassal? Yeah, okay. You said that will happen starting right away with 4 starting divine nodes. Okay. Lumen, save us. And then yeah,
continue. I made it easier on myself now, so
okay. Lex then says or possible, in addition to Steven saying not all things worth fighting for is easy. So Lex says or possible, and then Steven says we will ensure tuning it so that it is possible. And Hacksaw sort of like a rebel node sparking in the siege. And then Lex says the current vassal system will end up locking a structure that is almost impossible for players to break out of. You will need fancy code in the back to fake a way out of it. And Steven says if that shows up in testing, we will adjust as necessary so that we never have a static landscape. Right? And then DA says, so any chance you can tell us what military/econ node superpowers are? And Steven says, design and balance subject to change. Intent is key. Oh, sorry. My bad. That was not in response to anything else. I clicked it and that's what I saw. NVS Zero said, yes, please, Steven. It's been years and this is a major part of the game, talking about the military econ super nodes.
Okay.
Superpowers. Sorry. The way that this Discord jumps is strange. I expected to put it at the top, but it does not. Random question, Steven, but is your admin control game in game a sandal icon? He says yes. People are asking about an update for the nodes, right? We were waiting to hear, I believe, about divine nodes and a few other node types. Yeah. And Steven says, I gave my answer, it was unapproved.
Womp womp.
And then Talon says, approve it now. He says, no can do. It failed approval.
Failed.
So yes, it just failed. In 1MA, he said, even if players try to keep nodes static, they have ways through the systems of the game to naturally break that and move things along. I like that, yeah. Trigger worthy, LeBruce on Rebellion under Vassalship would be that would be that scene from Braveheart where Bannerman literally ignores the fight and watches their allies lose. Honestly, that is what a lot of people were talking about, you know, like if you are a child node under a mother vassal node, the way that you cannot support your mother vassal node is just don't do anything. Support your enemies, not your allies. Right?
Yeah, there's something to be said about that. Like just either not taking part in, say, a siege coming at the node, or taking part but doing nothing. That way you're literally just taking up space away from somebody who might have fought to defend it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many ways you could rebel.
Then on to my favorite thing ever. Steven says node commissions have a dedicated commission slot that are categorized by such things such as node type, buildings, constructed social org, religion, and policy. And then Gall says, Steven, the dev says that commissions are the same for everyone in the node, but that personal node reputation affects the rarity of the commission. Can you clarify on how both of these are correct? And Steven says, everyone sees the same commission relevant to their level range. However, some commissions you see are more rare than others and require sufficient reputation within the node in order to accept them. And then Talent says, why do you keep blue balling us with some mage spells?
Yeah.
He says, blue balls are necessary during development so that viewers still can discover things when they experience the game.
Boom. And now you know.
And now you know. And those are things that Steven has said so far in the month of March.
Dude, just rocking them blue nodes. Yep.
My pulp will take all the quest. Hee. Exactly. But yeah, I think that's cool though. I really like the idea that you know, your value of being able to take certain rare node commissions is tied to your reputation within that node. And that makes sense, right? Certain things that you can do for a node should not be available to just everybody. It's kind of like if, let's say, just completely random, there is a major city, and I'm gonna call it, what's that one that everybody talks about? The lost city of
Atlantis.
Atlantis. Let's say Atlantis is a major city, and there's a declaration of something that is important and only available to citizens of Atlantis. If you just joined 5 minutes ago, you should not be able to be a part of that. It's for the more upstanding citizens of Atlantis, the people that have been given time and effort towards Atlantis growing. And I like that idea because that gives a value to being loyal to a node, in my opinion. I think it really pushes the idea that there's a worthiness in being there and helping a node level up. And not only is it from a guild perspective, but from a citizen perspective in terms of reputation for a node. And I like that they are just like World of Warcraft, or not World of Warcraft. Wow, I can't believe I just said that. Just like D&D, there are multiple hooks for the player to be invested in. If you don't care about guilds, but you care about reputation, that's a hook for you. If you don't care about reputation, but you care about your guild, that's a hook for you. I think that the way that they have designed this to be very TTRPG like in a world that automatically reacts to you, I love that. That really resonates with me. Oh shoot, why you gotta do Peon like that? Poor Peon.
I mean, I'm just saying he's got to stand up at some point, so that counts as being an upstanding citizen, right? Am I right?
Yeah, we just need Katsu baking game. Basil, you the real one. If you don't know that reference, we just posted up my question for this next week, which is, in your opinion, what is something that a developer has done for in-game details? Is there a time that you can remember where the devs put in time and effort into something and made an impact on your gameplay? And I shared a short...
Will he actually make this?
If you would like to, Virtek, we can play this now or we can play it next week, regardless. It is a part of both questions on our Twitter feed. We are TGF Tavern across all of our socials, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, as well as discord.gg/TGF Tavern. It is also in our Discord question section for next week. But if you have not played the series of Monster Hunter games, I feel like they have a really good attention to detail in their games.
They do.
Their Ownzington says, when do you think, if at all, it will be appropriate to jump ship off first node you're a part of? For example, you need a level in a node because that's where the content is flowing from, but when and if should you branch off from that initial level grind or progression? Honestly, if it was up to me, I would probably spend a little bit of time until I could get a better weapon, and then I would venture out further.
Yeah, I think I don't know, because I think the first place that we get a freehold and we get the Golden Feather Tavern established, I think that's going to be maybe a tough sell to move like super quick. We need to make sure we we know what we're doing, where we're going, what's happening, like where's the guild moving, where are all the raids, where are all the dungeons, is anybody even coming by this side of the world? Are we the only ones here? Are there like 2 people running along the road on any given day and that's it? Because we want a freehold so we can do stuff like processing and maybe some farming or whatever to support the tavern, but we gotta have people buying stuff.
Well, additionally, while I think crafters might be incentivized to stay in a big node for more recipe opportunities, there are also things like finding the right node for you. If you are a part of a military node, that's probably going to be geared more towards military type crafting, whereas maybe I want to do more alchemy stuff, which is a poor example because you can do that on a freehold. But let's say I don't want military specific things that you can only put on for crafting. Not really only put on, but let's say you're a military node, you're probably going to want to advance weapons and or armor. Let's say you're crafting something besides that. Maybe you're doing, I don't know, cloth weaving, tailoring, right? And maybe that's more prevalent in an econ node or another node that is built towards that. So I feel like if the node does not serve you, if the node type does not serve what you are looking for, it is very valid to leave and try to find a node type that does serve what you're looking for as a player. And I mean, honestly, as players who are in guilds, I imagine they're probably going to be sticking wherever their guild is. You just got to convince your guild to move.
Right.
Also, Twitch hasn't struck me off the platform after using my name. Many years and counting. Might be because I was on the Kickstarter for Justin TV and used stream there. Who knows? No. I'm trying to figure out. This is from Roka. Your name from Spellforce 3. There's a dwarf and they're called Grim. I don't know. I feel like anything could be anything, you know. It's a name. As long as it's not inappropriate. I think they don't mind. Hidden Dagger says I'm swimming to an island at the start, drowning any dwarf I see along the way. Oh my gosh.
You know.
For dwarves.
I mean, if you're a big enough person, I hear dwarfs float. So they could almost be like little floaty shoes if you tie them to the bottom of your feet, right?
Man. But we have been live for quite a while, almost 2 hours, by the way.
Yeah, about an hour and a half at this point.
So shall we call it here? Or are you still in the mood for chit chat?
Oh man, we still got a bunch of house to move before they come do the floors tomorrow. We
do. And by the way, just as an FYI for those of you that are here late, next week we will be doing our Tavern Talk on Tuesday. We'll have a Tuesday Tavern Talk, which I thought the alliteration there was really nice. I apologize for scaring anybody in our Discord earlier today. I was in the middle of working when I also made the announcement. So for some of you, you've read, I must prepare you. This next week will be our last stream. And then I said for March. We will see you in April. But I switched it up. Next week will be our last March stream. We'll see you in April. But that's because Virtek here is going away for work, and we have a guest for next week, so I don't want to cancel and or remove that, but that would also give me a chance for the final week of March to prep up us being IRL or our podcast going forward on Tuesdays. So I will be doing some testing while Virtek is away, and I will be hanging out in the Discord. So if you guys are looking to chit-chat ashes, come find me in the Discord, and Virtek will probably be there too, if he can. So yeah, that would scare people. I agree. I did not mean to. I apologize.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with my audio video quality while I'm on the road the first week there, though. Next week specifically.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll do good. I might be able to find a closet at work or something. Be able to plug into the internet there.
Secret. Shh.
Yeah, just gotta be quiet, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you guys so very much for joining us. I don't have anybody in the Ashes category, so we gotta find somewhere else to go raid.
We have a Thogli, we have a Tech Deck 22, we have a Wicca-Sloth, and we have a Demon Soul Games.
Who haven't we raided in a while?
Like you said, nobody's streaming Ashes.
Right. Unfortunately.
Womp,
womp. Womp womp. Thank you, Take Your B3. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I think out of all of those, it has been the longest since we've raided either Wicca or Tech Deck.
Okay. And what are they playing? Raven Dawn looks like an isometric, nostalgic art style focused depth of gameplay. And Tech Deck is playing Grand Blue. So I say fantasy, which is an older thing. That sounds hard. I'm not as into these card game types, but I do like anime. Let's give Tech Deck some love. Tech Deck has the lesser amount of viewers.
Grand Blue Fantasy versus Raven Dawn. Or Grand Blue. Wait, oh, you were saying versus with the question mark. I see. No, it looks like just regular Grand Blue Fantasy.
Yeah, it's just the regular one. It's the one from what did it say? Hold on. 2016. It's April 11th, 2016. It's an older one. Thank you as well, Dagger. Let's just pick somebody and raid.
All right, Thogli. Let's go ahead and just do Thogli. It's a name everyone recognizes, and someone said, let's hit up the dwarf.
Okay. Done.
So we will hit up the dwarf. Congratulations, Hidden Daggerin. You have chosen our raid tonight.
Yes.
Well, did you have anything you would like to say on our way out?
Nope. Thank you guys for being here.
I would just like to say the same. Thank you, folks, for hanging out with us. Thank you for contributing to conversation. Thank you for the subs, of course, but visiting us and hanging out and keeping us company while we keep you company is the greatest possible reward you could give us.
I agree.
So we will consider our quest turned in and payment received. Thank you so very much. You folks have yourselves a great day. And until we see you next time, take care and bye-bye.